Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com. Is the Fury Hour. Actually, it's the Fury Cast, but here we are, Gene Jackson and Bob Anderson back with you once again. Proud to say that we are back live in Bhutan, in Pakistan, in all the places that were robbed of episode 7 of the UWF Fury Cast, because we told you about it last week in episode. No, I'm sorry. This is 9, right? 10.
This is 10.
So they were robbed of 8. We told them about it 9, and here we are in 10. It's hard to keep this shit straight. I don't know how, because each episode is so unique and exciting. It's like, which episode is this where Bob Orton did a shitty superplex?
Each episode is so unique with their Bob Orton, Paul Orndorff, Steve Williams, and John Tolos promos. So.
Well, folks, not to spoil it right out of the gate, but there is no Bob Orton match this week, so that's unfortunate. But you will have a Viking match, so stay tuned. Ooh. There is excitement coming your way. So what got us started this week, Bob?
Well, we start with a recap of the singles match that led to the tag match that's going to lead back to the singles match, because that's booking. I mean, this is booking that, like, this almost makes Vince Russo's booking look good.
Almost. Bro, you've never seen him go back from a single to a tag to a single. They don't ever do that, bro.
Right, but so we start with the recap of the I'm trying to think of a word here. The magnificent feud between Chief J Strongbow, who is not Chief J Strongbow, nor the son of Chief J Strongbow, nor a Native American. But I digress.
But you have to admit, he does bear a very strong resemblance to the original Chief J Strongbow, who was also not a chief, also not a Strongbow, also not an Indian, and he does have that same pair of singlet with the tomahawk on the back. So it's close enough.
And I'm led to believe he has a very sizable TP.
That's if Herb is to be believed, he has the biggest TP on the reservation. Although I'm surprised they let him live on that reservation, seeing as how he's not a legit Indian. But he's living the gimmick, brother.
Maybe he makes them lasagna. I don't know. Anyhow, so yes, we get a nice recap of the Strongbow Cactus feud that led to the Strongbow San Martino Cactus Evad Sullivan or Dave Armstrong or whoever the fuck that guy was last week.
Little Dave Armstrong, brother.
Yes, Wild Man, Mark Marrow, or whoever the blonde guy from last week that bled and led to my favorite moment in UWF history, where the crowd audibly went, "Oh," when Cactus tagged out of the match. So anyway, this week we're circling back around, and we're going to go back to where we started. We're going to have Chief J Strongbow and Cactus Jack in our main event.
And so they double down on showing too that where things went sideways in the first Cactus Jack Chief J Strongbow match, because the fans are already cheering Cactus Jack like he's the babyface. They're already booing Strongbow like he's the heel. So what do? We have David Sammartino run in and initiate a 2-on-1 on Cactus, which leads to Wild Man Jack Armstrong running in to even the odds to set up the tag match, which was just completely ass. Everything about this feud, for lack of a better word, is completely ass backwards.
Because, the heel running in to save the other heel is classic babyface booking.
Yeah, I mean, it was booked like they were the baby faces, so, I mean, the fans are, the fans are almost reacting accordingly. Obviously, they're not buying into Wild Man Jack just yet, but give them time. They'll come around.
Then we get informed by Herb that we were supposed to have a match today between Brian Blair and Cowboy Bob Orton, but it didn't get signed.
Darn it.
And then he blames John Tolos for that happening because apparently John Tolos is the fucking matchmaker now. Which I can't even, as much as I've shown my disdain these past few weeks for John Tolos, this is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Just randomly like, we were going to have this match, but that fucking John Tolos.
Yeah.
So, and way to make the main event that you've just announced look second rate. Like, we were going to have this other great match, but you're just going to have to watch this shitty match between Strongbow and Cactus because John Tolos is a dick.
We only mention it because we all know that you're thinking right now, Cactus and Strongbow in a single? That's fucking stupid. Well, we know it's fucking stupid. We're only doing it because Tolos screwed up the booking. We're sorry. Yeah. What a jackass.
So then we run down the what we're going to see today. We get a recap of the honey headbutt angle, the big angle from last week. Oh, yes, here we go.
Oh, we also reestablish, we get the perspective back that Bruno is taller than Herb.
Yeah. Someone forgot to bring Herbie's milk crate to this taping.
And this is the face he made after he was very...
Or, judging by that picture, Herbie may have ate his milk crate.
he very well may have. But, yeah, so that I really wish if we were going to recap anything, I just wanted to hear the little snippet from Bob Orton's promo at the end of the show. His, I think, fourth promo last week or whatever. And he goes, honey all over your face, baby. Fuck.
So, just to keep things rolling, we head right to a Brian Blair promo, which I believe you have a clip of.
I'm afraid I do. Check it out. Here is Brian Blair, still pretty mildly perturbed that Bob Orton headbutted his valet.
Bob Orton Jr. and John Tolos. You know something? I was supposed to wrestle you tonight, right on national television, right on the UWF Fury Hour. I was right here. I signed my name on the dotted line. Where's your signature? I'm waiting for you. Honey, she's ready. She wants to get up and escort me to the ring, but no, I want her to sit still right here. She's going to sit right here and relax. I don't want her going out to the ring with me right now because I don't need people like you, Bob Orton, headbutting a woman from behind. That is no good, and like I told you before, you will pay.
I'm going to go out there with you. Yes, I am going to go. Bob, you said you can take care of Brian. Well, you can't even get rid of me.
No, you sit still, honey. Just sit still and relax. No,
I'm going to go.
Thanks, Captain. You know, she's going to be all right. Just sit still and relax. Relax, Captain. Be careful with that, Captain. Be careful with that thing right there. You know, honey, you just got to relax. I know you're feeling bad. I know you want to be out there, but I promise you one thing. Bob Orton, John Tolos, you're the one that better look out from behind.
Whoa. Hey now.
You care if I give this a try?
Please do.
Gene, I am mildly concerned about what happened last week, and I really want to tell you about it. My wife got headbutted, and I really just wanted to sit here because I really don't want anything bad to happen. And let me tell you something, John Tolos, we were supposed to wrestle, and, I just, wow, here comes Captain Lou, and this feud just got 10 times worse. Woo, buzz, buzz.
Now, see, I see what you did there, and you nailed it. You recreated the fiery emotion brought forth by Brian Blair in that promo. But I do believe that promo. I do believe he is upset that Honey has been headbutted from behind. That seems to be his big issue here. You can headbutt this bitch. That's fine. But not from behind. You headbutt her from the front like I do when she burns dinner, okay? That's the way this is going to go down, Bob Orton.
You headbutt her like a man.
Like a freaking man. Not like some pansy headbutting her from behind. But now you're the one that's got to watch what's coming from behind, brother. What? That's how he ended it. But the fact that there were no B references, he didn't say Buzz, he didn't make any B innuendos in this promo means that he's very serious. Although I would have believed him more about wanting her to stay back there and not come to ringside if she wasn't dressed in her freaking gimmick outfit, unless that bitch just walks around all the time in this honeybee outfit, which could be the case.
Then again, in all fairness, it was the 90s in pro wrestling when everyone dressed like that all the time, unless you were the Horseman.
It's true. I'm pretty sure Hulk Hogan went to the mall in those red and yellow trunks, or red and yellow long tights with the yellow cowboy boots and his bandana.
Exactly.
On. Of course, we saw what Randy Savage was walking around wearing in this time frame. You know,
I always wanted to know where I could get a fucking tassel jacket and some neon green cowboy hats, but
I mean, I'm assuming he hit that tree that day was because he couldn't see through his freaking sunglasses, but that's purely speculation.
Too soon. So
all right, don't have a heart attack, okay? Take it easy.
So we follow up that promo with another Bob Orton promo, because God knows we didn't have enough of those last week.
Pile that heat on there, man.
I don't think you have a clip of this one, but he did have one.
Mercifully, I do not.
He did have one pretty funny line. I'm not saying it's a good line. We're not condoning anything about how he was going to pop Honey right in the kisser. And then, of course, Tolos started talking. Like Orton got in 3 sentences, and that was one of them, and it was fine. And then Tolos started talking for the next 6.5 minutes or whatever the fuck it was, or felt like, and ruined the rest of the promo.
It's not even like heel heat, like, oh, this guy's so good at what he does, he's getting heat right. It's just awful. It's just shit you don't want to hear. It's just like, oh, fast forward. God bless, why does he talk so much?
Exactly.
It's just bad.
Yeah, if he could deliver what he's trying to say in fucking 3 paragraphs instead of a monologue.
He's again, not. You had nobody producing these promos clearly, because anybody with half a brain had been like,
"Yeah, no, it's piss poor," and he obviously is his own biggest fan, other than Herb.
I wanted to like the guy in the beginning just because how bad I know he perturbs you. I wanted to be his biggest fan, like I am Larry Sampson, but I will say this. He has proven again for the 3rd week in a row. Spoiler alert, fans. There's another John Tolos promo coming later on. He has proven for the 3rd week in a row, though, that he has inspired another legend. But we'll get to that in due time.
I'll be so glad when you drop this gimmick.
Oh, it's not a gimmick, sir. It's reality. And once he quits doing it, then I'll quit pointing it out. But
so speaking of shitty people, you like Larry Sabisco's up next.
All right, well, let's take a look. Last week he had the very exciting conclusion to his match where the bulldozer charged in. He moved out of the way and very swiftly scooped him up, gave him a big old body slam, got a pinfall. So now we just have to wonder, what exciting way is the AWA World Champ going to win his match this week? Let's take a look.
Well, Bruno, he claims to be the living legend of professional wrestling, but we all know that you, and only you, are the true living legend of professional wrestling.
Well, thank you very much, Herb. Yes, Larry says he's the new legend, and hey, what can you say? He wears that title, so he's on top of his game. He's meeting a young man by the name of Kevin Benjamin.
He may wear the AWA title belt, but I got to tell you, I'd like to see if he could ever win the UWF title belt, because that's the belt. That's going to be the premier belt in the world of professional wrestling today. Letters across the country today.
For wrestling information, you certainly can't beat it, and it had some interesting things to say, the last one that I saw, about Zbyszko and San Martino's and so forth. But anyway, Zbyszko right now is... Zbyszko's one of these guys. There's the abdominal stretch. Zbyszko's one of these guys who can go in there.
Oh, this is
an abdominal stretch.
This is a submission hold. Wow. Absolutely.
I guess Benjamin is submitted, huh?
Bruno, we all know that abdominal stretch is one of the most devastating holds in wrestling. I remember Dominic DeNucci using that And back in your days, under a number of opponents.
I'll say this.
What?
Either that was a legit painful abdominal stretch, or that jobber knew how to sell, because his face, he looked like he was dying in that abdominal stretch.
I was dying during that abdominal stretch.
So we're in 1990, about to be 1991, and I'm pretty sure through the entire decade of the 80s, no one had ever submitted to an abdominal stretch. I think we'd probably have to go back to the early 70s, late 60s for documented proof of anyone, including enhancement talent, giving up to an abdominal stretch.
Let's take this in segments. Yes, first we had the abdominal stretch. A little earlier, David Sammartino shows up again to continue that exciting feud and to slow down the snail's pace that Larry was already keeping.
Yeah. Sorry.
But let's start with that first quote from Herb about how Larry may be the AWA champion, but he wants to see if he can win the UWF championship, because that will be the premier title in all of wrestling.
It doesn't currently exist yet. It's hypothetical. And look at the people who are prone to be competing for it. But I mean, okay, if you look at the list of contenders for the AWA title at that point, and the potential of contenders for the UWF title, even if you include in the Bulldozer and that guy, Kevin Hart or whatever his name is. I mean, I guess Herb has a point, but we are still months away from seeing a UWF champion of any shape or form.
Do you think that Crockett and Vince were shaking in their boots? Well, I guess Crockett would have been gone. You think Turner and Vince were shaking in their boots?
Oh, I'm sure there were some late night phone calls back and forth. Like,
you think Jim Herd was ready to go back to Domino's or Pizza Hut or whatever the fuck it was?
Pizza Hut, sir. He's not some jabroni from Domino's.
Sorry, that's back when Pizza Hut was the class of the pizza industry. So.
Now, some of you people may think, okay, they're being real sarcastic right now. We just watched Larry Zbyszko win a match with abdominal stretch. I don't think that Vince and Ted Turner or even Jim Herd would be nervous about what's going on. But let's take a look at this promo from Mr. Cutie Pie himself, the unofficial third member of the Hart Foundation, according to his gear, Mr. Louie Spicolli.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today because I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. The UWF's packing its bags and they're flying on over to New York. Cutie Pie Louie Spicolli's flying on over to New York too, and I'll be in first class. I don't know who I'm wrestling over there in New York, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I, for sure, will be the cuter of the two, and you could take that all the way to New Jersey.
I love Louie.
You know, that profile there and looking at his hair, it just occurred to me, you know, if you dyed his hair jet black there, him and Disco Inferno could have been a tag team at this point.
Don't say such terrible things about Louie.
I mean, I know it's before Disco Inferno shows up, so he could have been the original Disco Inferno. But
of all the people to randomly give a New York promo, but fucking, I love it. Like, Louie was one of my favorite guys in ECW and WCW, and it's so sad his career got cut short the way it did. But
you know, the only thing I can imagine is if Vince was up late watching Sports Channel and saw that promo, he's probably like, God damn, pal, he needs to be on the next Pile Driver album.
Right. Bring him in to manage Rhythm and Blues.
Moving on.
No, that was one of my favorite parts of this whole episode, to be completely honest with you, because I laughed my ass off. But
he's at least entertaining. Like he's in the ring, in his promos, he's trying to stand out. He's trying to not be just another vanilla jobber or washed up WWF guy. Kudos to him. He's one of the few bright spots on these shows. I mean,
not taking himself too seriously.
Because how could you, looking around that place?
So, speaking of taking ourselves too seriously, let's go back to the racist referee angle, because we haven't overdone the shit out of that.
Yes.
Dean choked to death.
I'm sorry. We are beating that dead horse week in, and week out. It should have left with Billy Jack, even though,
This horse is so dead, it's the one that Terry Funk left the WWF for in 1985.
Billy Jack rode out on my horse. But, I mean, I realized that, I'm pretty sure when Billy Jack left, he never looked back, so he didn't see what was happening in the ring. I'm sure Billy Jack's like, stamped out racism in the UWF, all is well. Back to Portland we go. And little did he know that right behind his back, the Angle was trudging on. So, now if you haven't been following along, people, if you somehow missed an episode, I don't remember what the advancement on the racist storyline with the referee was for the week that everyone got shut out. At some point in the last couple weeks, we just had what did they call that guy?
Oh, he was the commissioner. I don't remember his actual name.
Commissioner of some
Ross or
description.
something.
Yeah. Harry Ross or something was a commissioner who just appeared out of nowhere. They just cut to him at ringside. Go, oh, there's the commissioner, Harry Ross. And then that thing happened where Debeers attacked Larry Sampson, the referee, gave him a very poor DDT and some very phony-looking stomps. The following week, it was announced, because he didn't do anything to Colonel Debeers for his attack on the referee, the commissioner has been let go. And any further action against Colonel Debeers will be forthcoming. So fast forward a couple more weeks, and it has been decided that Larry Sampson himself, the referee in question, now has the authority. If he will just write his name on a piece of paper, this will result in Colonel Debeers being suspended for, 180 days, I think they said? Something like that. I don't want to spoil it. So let's take a look at how this plays out when it's time for Larry Sampson to sign this contract that would suspend the dirty, racist, low-down scumbag, Colonel Debeers.
Here's what happened.
Larry Sampson, we need you to sign right here for the suspension papers for Colonel Debeers so that he is suspended from the UWF for 180 days. Right over here, Larry.
I can't sign this.
Why not?
The only thing I can sign is the match, the referee, Colonel Debeers' match. That's all. Thank you.
Well, you heard it from Larry Sampson. He's just refused to sign these suspension papers to bar Colonel Debeers from wrestling in the next 180 days, and he's demanded to sign to referee a match with Colonel Debeers, and we're going to have to take this up with the UWF powers.
All right, let's review that point by point. First of all, Herb Abrams is so short that referee Larry Sampson looks like Elegante standing next to him in this. I mean, if he ever needed his milk crate, this was the time. Because now we're like, why can't Larry Sampson defend himself? He's a giant, apparently. Like, why don't he just beat up Colonel Debeers? A giant. Yeah, Captain Lou's going to cut a freaking 4-minute promo about Larry Sampson is a giant. He's the greatest referee. He's a 12th wonder of the world referee. So anyway.
So when can, now referees can just randomly suspend fucking wrestlers? Because if that's the case, literally every main eventer in this promotion should be fucking suspended, because every goddamn match ends with the referee getting fucking hit and someone disqualified.
Now, I want to point out that Commissioner Ross was shit-canned because he refused to do anything to Colonel Debeers. So now Larry Sampson has refused. Why is he not fired? Why is Herb like, get out of here, you son of a bitch? And now he's going to be like, all right, hopefully the ring announcer will sign off on this and we can finally get something done. Because clearly the owner of the company / head commentator, he can't do anything. He's helpless. It's got to be the commissioner. It's got to be the referee. It's got to be the popcorn guy. But if not, then Colonel Debeers has got free reign to just wreak havoc and be a racist and just ruin the UWF.
Goddamn Billy, the guy that sells Cokes, is going to have to fucking come out here and
suspend Debeers. Sign this paper. I'm sorry, I can't sign. At first, I didn't know where they were going with it when I watched it the first time. Was he's like, here, sign this. And then Larry looks at it confused, and he's like, right here. And he's like, I can't sign this. And I thought Herb's going to be like, can't you read? What are you literate? And then you're like, no, because I want to referee. You're like, I was like, man, this racist angle is fixing to get a lot more racist if this is where it's going, where I think it is. But it didn't, thank God. But Colonel Debeers still has free reign because no one will sign off on his punishment.
So what's the best way to follow that up? A Colonel Debeers match, of course.
Boom, there he is, twisting the mustache and executing a DDT like only he can.
Yes, this week he takes on Fat Fuck Kool-Aid Man.
He would eventually go on to be Hornswoggling Hillbilly in JCW years later, but right here, he's Fat Fuck Kool-Aid Man. Oh, yeah.
Can you bring that picture back up? This referee with the Bobby Eaton mullet might be my favorite referee in fucking.
He's got to be. He's got to be the top right. He'd sign that damn piece of paper.
Fuck yeah, he would.
Heartbeat. Yeah, if he's not from Huntsville, Alabama, I'll kiss your ass because he has got the sweetest mullet that we've seen yet on a UWF episode.
Hands down. Like as soon, like I literally was like, is that Bobby Eaton refereeing? Oh no, okay, that's like Jimmy Eaton.
Jimmy Jam Eaton.
Exactly.
Oh wow. So
and then I don't think the match ends and we get a shot of a black guy in the crowd like angrily trying to attack Colonel Debeers while being held back by several people, and I can only assume that Herb paid the guy in fucking Paul Orndorff t-shirts.
I'm sure. It's like we've got all these Dan Spivey. We got all these Dan Spivey t-shirts we can't sell. Will you please take like 4 of them and act belligerent and mad? Like if you can't do it right now, wait till the end of the night when you sat through this whole TV taping. It'll come natural. You'll be able to pull it off with no problem. And that's what they did. At the end of the night, they were like, hey, man, 4 more matches. And he's like, you son of a... Ah! And they shot it, and then they clipped it in like it was mad at Colonel Debeers.
That could potentially be... Like, that might... Yeah, maybe that wasn't actually after the Debeers match. That was like... the guy thought they were fucking done. And they're like, all right, we're just past intermission. And that guy was like... Oh!
And there was our 4th double disqualification of the night. Ah! All right, so now we're almost
up next is Chief Jay Strongbow.
we're going to have another, following the main event, we're going to have a 2 out of 3 falls match with Chief Jay Strongbow taking on his partner, David Sammartino, in a scientific match.
Oh, shit. All right, what happened after that? Oh, well, then we cut to the fucking Herb promo in New York. Yeah. So this one's almost as realistic as that last shot. We get a promo it's a Herb New York promo where he's with another giant. It's a large African-American gentleman who claims that he's a New York City police officer and says that they're coming for Colonel Debeers, and he wants Colonel Debeers to come fight him. My first guess is this guy's just A, random dude, or B, maybe a security guard for this hotel they're going to go, the Pentagon Junior or Yarrow Meadow Hotel. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'm assuming that the NYPD had better things to do than cut random fucking promos on fucking Colonel Debeers in 1990.
I sure hope so. Apparently, at this time, Herb's like every time he saw a black dude, he's like, "Get the camera, let's make him act like he's mad at Colonel Debeers." Like,
you mad at Colonel Debeers? Who the fuck is Colonel Debeers? Just say you're mad at Colonel Debeers. Here's $50 and a bag of cocaine.
Give you 2 lines right now if you'll. So yeah, I guess I should have got a clip of that, but I was just like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah. I mean, like, I wrote a note here that says, "Imagine that if this actually had heat and was a good angle and had a good heel," but I still don't think it would matter.
I don't think it would matter, but ultimately, when you take a step back, you're like, the longest running angle, not counting Dr. Death and Orndorff, because it's been on again, off again because of Doc going to Japan, has been between Colonel Debeers and a referee. That's never going to pay off. The closest you would have came to it was Billy Jack. And they immediately had him tag the referee a minute Billy Jack walked out the door. So I was like, all right, well, who's going to step in now? Then you had, well, I don't want to get ahead of yours. We'll see where things go next. Right. Now, we saw the one fan's reaction to this. he was very upset. But let's take a look at a couple other fans in the audience here. We got this guy who he looks like maybe he did just hear the announcement that we're going to see another Chief Jay Strongbow match tonight. He looks very unpleased.
He could be on Ico Pro.
He may have been on Ico Pro. And then that guy.
That guy is how big Strongbow's teepee is.
he is either a huge UWF fan or he won the raffle at intermission and got the T-shirt and the hat. So
he won the 50-50 drawing.
Yay! Wow, those guys. I accidentally still framed on those as I was editing, and I was like, okay, I'm taking that as a picture because holy cow.
Yeah, that guy definitely won the rigged 50-50 drawing.
This picture will be sticking. Yeah, that's the guy that wins every rigged 50-50 drawing and at every indie show in Alabama. He splits it with Mike Jackson because Mike Jackson doing the Lord's work out there. So
one of these shows we're gonna have to tell some fucking stories. Anyway, gotta love the good old rigged 50-50 drawing.
It's a staple of Southern independent wrestling.
Oh, I've in some Northeastern independent wrestling too, sir.
I'm sorry. Staple of wrestling, I should say.
That pretty much.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen, if you know what's good for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So, well, you're thinking the show can't get any worse, but here comes the wild thing.
Never issue that challenge on a UWF show. It ain't gonna get any worse than this. And then,
but
here he comes.
He comes out and he's carrying his airbrush shirt, which he shakes around the ring like, I don't know, I like Papa Shango with his voodoo stick or some shit. Then he tosses out some random 12-year-old who looks like he just got fucking food for the first time in a month. I don't know. That caught me weird.
Yeah.
Like he shows it to his friends, like, I just got a fucking Steve Ray shirt. And his friends are like, dude, that's fucking great. And I'm like, you kids have never been to any other wrestling.
Who the fuck is Steve Ray? Like the guy who threw the shirt at you. Steve Ray to me is like
in the ring.
Van Hammer, like if somebody took Van Hammer and crossed him with Brian Pillman in a test tube somewhere, and all the talent went away, and it was just,
and then dressed him in Scotty Flamingo's wardrobe.
Yes. So to set up this clip, obviously Herb Abrams has high hopes for Steve Ray to be the next big baby face here in the UWF. And so he's put him against Louie Spicolli, who Cactus Jack, #1 on the guys we're trying to push as a heel, and the fans aren't having it. Louie Spicolli, very close #2 on that scale. And so at one point, if you pay attention to the crowd noise here, more so than the in-ring action, at one point, Wild Thing is unknowingly leading a chant of Wild Thing sucks. Later, there's a chant of "Wild Thing's a Woman." And then we get to see some of his great aerial maneuvers. And keep in mind, folks, this is 1990, okay? This is 2 years before Pillman versus Jushin Liger was the biggest high-flying spectacle that anybody had ever seen, which 10 years down the road would just be a Wednesday night on TNA. Like,
right.
So you didn't see a lot of people diving off the top rope out to the floor other than Macho Man doing axe handles.
And one other thing, if I don't know how much of it you got, but pay attention to Bruno being racist toward his own fucking people.
Well, you know, Bruno wants to get in on a little of the racist action, and that's the safest route to go, is to just hit his own people rather than go the Debeers route. So, all right, check it out. Wild Thing takes on Cutie Pie, which doesn't even sound like a wrestling match, honestly.
Are these guys going to wrestle, or are they going to... Uh-oh.
Whoa! He ain't so killed down!
It's devastating as any suplex. Well, he doesn't look like he was hurt by it. Look at him. One thing you have to give him credit. He took a heck of a blow, and look at him. Spicolli doesn't seem to be affected by it.
But I'll tell you, I'm impressed by this youngster.
Hey, left for it. Nice takedown by the Wild Thing. He got behind his man and took him down nicely. Spun on him 3-4 times. Louie says, what the heck's the big deal in that?
1, 2, 3.
When you get your man hurt, you take
He's
advantage.
wasted too much time here.
Now, look at this, look at this.
Oh!
Well, you see what they did for him? Yeah, now go ahead, showboat a little more. That was so dumb. You know, when you have an opportunity to take your opponent.
He had to go look at this move. Mother Spicolli.
He kept pinning him there purposely. What's he want to do to him? Let's see.
The referee looked a little confused there.
I think he had the pin right there, though. He only needed one more. And let's see what he wants.
Whoa!
Should do a big splash.
Wow!
Jeez.
That should be it.
Oh, surely, surely.
The Wild Thing.
Diving off the top with all the grace of Rapmaster PN News for the finish there.
Well, at least with News, it was impressive because he was a big fat bastard. All right, let's start at the beginning. The first notes I have were early in the match, fucking Herb started in on it going, a Spicolli, a pizza, fucking like doing the Mario accent. And I'm like, I mean, I think we've proven that fucking Herb doesn't like anyone and he's racist. And then fucking Bruno starts going, a Spicolli, a Spicolli. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Bruno, you've lived in this country for 40 fucking years and can't speak English. So that one just caught me fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then you talking about the chants against Wild Thing were hilarious. And I didn't even notice him fucking cheerleading his own fucking Wild Thing sucks chants.
Oh, that's great.
My other Louie at one point was holding out for the handshake and then had his fingers behind his back fucking crossed. So Louie was the star of this match to me. He carried Stevie.
Kudo to the camera guy for getting a good shot of that too. Like they got a good close-up shot of the fingers crossed where the announcers could not miss it. They actually like, oh, he's got his fingers crossed.
Yep.
Because normally they would have never sold that.
At one point, Louie went out and did the fucking, which I love. It's one of my favorite Healy things. But no, I thought Spicolli carried the fucking match. There were a couple points where he was real obviously fucking calling the spot like this. But I mean, what had he been in the business at this point? A fucking year?
And I'm sure you were all but having to yell it and write it down for Steve Ray to know what the hell he's trying to tell.
I was going to say, I mean, but yeah, I mean, he obviously carried Ray through all of this because he looked completely fucking lost at times.
The glaring fuck up from Louie, and I think you're about to mention it right now, the top rope spot, is that what you're about to
say? Yeah, where he had to back into the fucking ropes twice. Looked like shit.
I caught that. I forgot to mention it, but yeah, I caught that when I was editing it and made sure that went in because it's like he goes over and hits the ropes. It's Spicolli doesn't sell it, so then he hits him again, and then they do it. I'm like, oh, God. When it doesn't happen the first time, then just don't do it.
Right, let it go. And I mean, Louie wasn't even ready yet. And then we talked about it a bit off air. Like you said last time he was out, he finished with the power slam, which he probably shouldn't be doing because Dr. Death's doing it. But at least it's a different version of the power slam. And the one he hits looks decent. It's more of like the snap power slam. And it looks good. But then he goes up and he, like you said, he hits that fucking terrible looking top rope splash. Like, I mean, I have all the grace of a fucking wounded dolphin. And I feel like I could damn near hit a shitty looking splash like that. And I mean, I know I couldn't.
That literally was who I thought, because, PN News would go up and then he would just kind of fall from the top rope, essentially. He's not diving. He's not jumping like Snuka or he's just and that's kind of how his dive was. Just kind of like, brr.
Yeah, it was a falling fat ass, and
and he's not a fat ass.
No,
yet. I don't know how that plays out in the end, but
yeah, no, I don't.
But he's going to, I mean, you're convinced he's going to, I mean, we know time has passed. I guess it never happened. But if I'd have been watching it week to week back then, I'd have been invested like, all right, I'm going to keep watching this until this guy falls backward off the top rope
and that's
he's paralyzed because he's like, and then again, just like the splash at the end, he's essentially at that point, he's falling backwards. So then he just lunges forward and falls forward onto these people. He did it the same way when he did the dive the last match he was in.
That's the spot to the floor. I forgot about that. That's the second time. Both times he's looked like he was about to fucking fall backwards and tumble backwards to the floor, which
like, okay, he's about to get draws up in here, and then no, he saved it. All right, well.
So yeah, to me that whole match was Louie. Like Louie carried the ball, and for A, supposed to be the jobber, and B, I guess my Steve Ray history is not very good. I don't know who had more experience there, but
it had to be Louie, I would assume, because Louie had been. I don't know if this is before he had been to Mexico. I'm assuming so.
Yeah,
but I know he got in through Bill Anderson. So he got in through Bill Anderson, aka Black Knight, aka the Medic. So I'm assuming he did some shows with him, at least a handful of shows. But my understanding, Steve Ray had literally had maybe 3 professional wrestling matches before he walked out on UWF TV. Now, I may be wrong about that, but that is what I've read in the past. And to watch it, it seems likely.
Looks like Louie started in Mexico in '89.
Okay, and we're at the tail end of '90 here. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it was with Tim Patterson and Bill Anderson as Los Mercenarios Americanos in '89. I don't know how much work they actually did, but
I just know he eventually becomes known as Madonna's boyfriend because he vaguely looked like some guy that Madonna had dated.
Yeah, it looks like they were masked down there from '89 through July of '91. But again, who knows how often they were working down there? But that's according to Wikipedia, which could be completely fucking wrong. So,
well, check cagematch.net because there's no bigger authority on professional wrestling than if it says it. That means more than Meltzer. That's the Bible, professional wrestling Bible.
That's a shoot. All right.
All right. At least I got a legit laugh out of you once today, so that's a win.
So that's inside joke, folks. All right, so we're moving on to Captain's Corner. Which starts with Albano calling himself the old fat man with the rubber bands, which I guess is probably the funniest shit he's ever said on this show.
Nose, yeah.
And we get the introduction of Don Morocco.
There he is. Looking slightly less magnificent than we had last seen him in WWF.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Little less rock-like, a little less magnificent.
Yeah, but, I mean, Survivor Series 87, he was ripped. And then here, not so much.
Hey, he's someone new and he's not being managed by John Tolos. I'm all for it.
Hey, I love me some Don Morocco. Okay?
I do too.
I've always enjoyed his work in the ring. I mean, I loved Fuji Vice, Fuji Bandito, all the silliness that they did on TNT back in the day. Yeah, I've always enjoyed Morocco. So yeah, I'm here for him. That's awesome.
At one point during the promo, he does call Tolos a bow-legged geek, which got a legit smile out of me. So,
Indeed.
And so, yeah, other than that, it was just a rah-rah UWF's great promo, which they've pretty much been cutting every week because apparently Albano is the paid shill for Herb. I don't know what Herb's sharing with him, if it's booze or Coke or
both, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they follow those stupid segments, follow the same path every time. If it's a heel, he starts out putting him over, then they get sideways, and then at the end they come back around and end it. But he always squares off with them at some point, and they get yelling at each other. But then if it's like this, where they're both a babyface, and it's just they kiss each other's ass, they kiss Herb's ass, they kiss UWF's ass, and then we move on.
Then we get the debut of not just one, 2 new segments here on the UWF Fury Hour. Gene, are you excited?
I am beyond excited because we need something new here. We need something different. We need something that's going to pay off.
Well, first we get the UWF box office with Herb and Bruno, which is just Herb and Bruno superimposed over the cheapest, shittiest looking brick building with the words box office on it that you've ever seen in your life. Like, they couldn't even fucking splurge for an expensive looking brick building. Like, it literally looks like a goddamn VFW with the words box office on it.
Look, this was 1990. You couldn't just go Google the nicest looking box office and then throw it up in the background. I mean, it's just whatever picture.
You're in fucking California. You can't tell me
go
they
across the
couldn't
street
find
and take a picture of
building
the
that looked
box
nicer
office.
than that piece of shit.
Well, if only they had shown that there had been a box office in that highlight of clips that they show in the intro every week, then we'd have had a nicer one.
So they obviously filmed 37 hours of footage for the fucking opening of this show. You couldn't find one goddamn box office. So anyway, the whole thing was just for them to promote the Rumble in the Big Apple, as we're going to call the show, at the Penta El Cierro Miedo Hotel, where the NYPD is coming to fight Col Debeers, apparently, and nothing else is. I think they might have announced one other match. I don't fucking remember. I didn't care.
I don't know if that large black man that alleged to be a cop has ever been trained to wrestle, but I would put money on the fact right now, had he wrestled Col Debeers, I bet he was a better wrestler than Viking.
Potentially. So we follow up that segment with the debut of Ask the Wrestlers, which we've been hearing about for months, which I believe you have a screenshot of, and we ask Bruno Sammartino the question. The question comes from Steve Stevens.
So they've been asking for I think I included that in here once, and I didn't keep putting them because they would show it 2 or 3 times every episode. Send your question for Ask the Wrestlers, and if we use your question, we'll send you a free T-shirt. So either A, even though they begged for them, nobody sent in questions, or B, Herb was too cheap to send out a $12.95 T-shirt, so they just made up Steve Stevens. And
Wait a minute, maybe that motherfucker earlier in that picture is Steve Stevens.
Let's take a look here. If we think this looks like a Steve Stevens, where'd he go? Son of a bitch. Oh, there's Steve Stevens. Boom. And he does look like he would ask the question that you're about to pose. So
Yeah,
all right, maybe it was legit.
So Steve Stevens, kayfabe, wanted to know which wrestler gave Bruno the most trouble during his career. And Bruno, God bless him, in the most UWF way fucking possible, takes Ask the Wrestlers to a Herbie finish and says, all of them. Because
he rattled off half a dozen wrestlers he's wrestled in his lifetime and then said, I don't want to narrow it down to one, just all of them.
He wouldn't want any wrestlers from the fucking 60s or 50s, 60s, or 70s to have to do a job to a fucking question.
And there's maybe 2 of the 6 he listed that were even still alive in 1990 at that point to have known the difference. I mean,
so they were
say Ivan Koloff. He's the only one that still wrestles on your show. I'd have been like, Ivan Koloff's the baddest man. Oh, my gosh. That's why he's still wrestling today. Is he so I don't want to say. I don't.
So That was asked. So that was the answer for Steve Stevens. I'm sure next week John Johnson will have a fucking question.
I can only
then
hope so.
Jack Jackson and
John Doe asks.
Yeah. Then Robert Roberts and
Steve Ray, how did you get so wild?
Well,
you wild thing.
I went to Herb's house.
Andre, what was your toughest match? As he rips the LJN in two again.
That sounded like Rocky asking what his toughest fight was.
It's Tommy, you know. It's Tommy Jones, toughest fight.
Shit.
What's next?
Well, I think it's the Viking.
Of course it is. All right, I've got a brief clip of the Viking. I was trying to be positive about the Viking. I was trying to be in on the Viking. You know, they put him over strong the first couple of weeks. He's sending people out on a stretcher with an elbow drop. Now he's adding other things to his repertoire. Let's just take a look at this.
The referee. Boom, another big chop. Now what?
Whoa.
2, 3, yeah.
He knocked the wind out of him now.
Oh, absolutely. And now what? An elbow.
Always does it. Doesn't know when to stop.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'd like to see the referee one time say, you do that and you're going to disqualify it. He doesn't disqualify him. Have it go down the record book that he lost the match. And maybe the next time when he needs to know.
That spinebuster hurt Ron Simmons' feelings.
Dude, if Roderick Strong is the messiah of the spinebuster, the Viking is the Forrest Gump of the spinebuster. That was the worst I have ever seen. Stick to the elbow drop.
I'm pissed off that you showed the hardest chop he threw in the whole match, because earlier he was throwing chops that made Baba's look like fucking Walters.
If you knew what the process was of making these clips, like I have to... Like by the time I get around to the third or fourth match, I'm like, all right, it's gonna be one clip. That's it. I'm not doing this several times to show these shit ass chops that he's been doing every week.
Literally the chops earlier in the match, like literally they made Giant Baba's chops look like fucking Walter or Gunther or whatever you want to call him. Like they wouldn't have.
But
like if Orton had hit Honey with those, Blair would have thought she was getting a massage. That's what they fucking look like.
If you're gonna grope my wife.
Yeah, you do it harder than that.
But again, this guy was putting people on stretchers with an elbow drop 2 weeks in a row. Now he's doing what legitimately looks like dangerously poorly executed spine busters, followed by an elbow drop. No stretcher, no nothing. We're just drop that gimmick. Like they don't follow through with shit here, except for the racist angle. We're going to talk about that every week, apparently. But anything else just goes by the wayside.
I did notice that the Viking and the crowd are getting more verbal with each other. Like they apparently don't fucking like him, and he apparently doesn't like the fact that they don't fucking like him. So
yes, they are heckling him, and like each week he's becoming more the Don Rickles of UWF. Like he's every once in a while they'll pick up what he's saying because he's like something about fat lady. Like,
after these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
So what's next?
Oh, we move on from there to a Debeers promo, which I actually got a chuckle out of because it was mostly just him making fun of the cops and telling them to come fight him, which I mean, not that it was good, but it's probably the best thing he's ever done on this show.
Because most of the stuff he's done has been pretty nonsensical, and it's like non sequitur to what's even going on. Like he's talking about Fantasyland and all this crap. So at least we showed a cop talking shit about him. Now he's addressing cops. Like at least there's some connection there.
He was pretty much just like, cops, if you want to fight me, come fight me. And so it made sense, and it was kind of funny because,
which is, I mean, what you want to do right before you go to New York is like challenge all the cops to fight you when you get there.
So.
Like, hey, I'm not really a South African colonel. I'm just a Pollock from Minnesota. Like, don't kill me.
Then we unfortunately cut to a Tolos promo about New York, where he arrives in. I can't even read my own shit here. Sorry. He arrives in his limousine. It's another rambling Tolos promo. He does announce that he'll be managing Greg Valentine, which sucks because I enjoy Greg Valentine, which makes me enjoy Greg Valentine less. So
okay, we're going to circle back around to Tolos here in a minute, but I'm just curious, what is it you enjoy so much about Greg Valentine? Is it the charisma? Is it his witty promos? Is it his outrageous style in the ring? Like, what is it that draws you to Greg Valentine?
Well, there's two. I enjoy like early Greg Valentine, like early 80s, like watching the scientific Greg Valentine. And then for some reason, fucking watching the early Royal Rumbles where Monsoon was always like, oh, it takes him 45 minutes to fucking get warmed up. I don't know why that always endeared me to Greg Valentine.
Greg Valentine. So I got to work a handful of shows with him around 1999.
Oh, no, Greg Valentine is an asshole. But
we're not even going there. So we're sitting in the dressing room. Greg Valentine comes in, and he's got a laundry bag with his robe in it. The one with the big arm on the back, and hammer. Hangs that up, and he goes and sits down at a table. We're at a huge, what do you call it? Where they have rodeos and shit.
I got you.
And so, but we had a pretty large dressing room back here. So he goes and sits down at a table, and he pulls out a briefcase, and he sets the briefcase down, he opens it up, and takes out some cocaine and sprinkles on the table. Again, this is 1999. This ain't 1980. Chops this shit up with a credit card. There's 30 of us in there. We're all just like what is happening right now? Like, because nobody on any shows we had been on could afford. I mean, none of us were into cocaine, but even the names they brought in couldn't have afforded it. He's chopping the shit up, just, gets it all lined up in the line as long as my arm that probably would have made Herbie jealous. And just one fell swoop takes it all up his nose. And we're like, this ain't Sabu. Like, what's Greg Valentine fixing to go out there and do that he needs to snort? And, of course, he goes out there, and in true Valentine's fashion, especially by 1999, they shoot him off the rope, they give him a clothesline, he wobbles twice, and then takes a face bump. They shoot him off the ropes, they give him a drop kick, wobbles twice, takes a face bump. That dude's back never touched the mat. He took face bumps it didn't matter what they did, he took a freaking face bump. I'm like, can you imagine if he hadn't snorted that cocaine? He probably would have never left his feet. Like, good grief. But like, you tell me you saw Sabu snort one. I'm like, okay, well, he's fixing to go out there and dive through 4 flaming tables and, God knows what else. But the hammer, like, do it after the match, dude. What are you doing?
I worked a show with Greg, and I actually didn't think about it and wore my I Broke Wahoo's leg shirt. And he just looked at me. He's like, I bet I didn't get paid for that.
Oh, yeah. He is the most grumpy, like, angry, bitter. I don't know. Like, I was kind of indifferent to Valentine most of my life because it's just like, all right, Greg Valentine. But then after that, like, I don't know. I was just always like, why is that dude so angry? You think he'd be amped up, at least here to have some fun. But, like, nope, he snorted his cocaine and just sit there and...
He's probably paranoid as fuck.
And then he slipped his robe on and then went out to the ring and he's wrestling Tommy Rogers, of all people, who's flying around. So, you imagine it. You almost have to work to take a Tommy Rogers drop kick because it was there to then take a face bump afterwards.
He had to pirouette one time. I mean, what the fuck do you want from him, man?
Exactly. At least turn the other direction and then fall face first, like Flair. So a couple things about this John Tolos promo. All I'm going to say, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but just pay attention to him standing by this limousine of his this week in this promo. Pay attention to that for future reference. That's all I'm going to say. Now, we've learned what an effect. I feel embarrassed that we didn't really know much about John Tolos coming into UWF. Because we've established that John Tolos invented the diamond cutter sign. We established that Sabu ripped off John Tolos when he would point at the freaking ceiling every night. Now, this week, we learn that before Rob Van Dam was the whole effing show, you had JVD, John Van Tolos. Look at this. There he is right there. So, ECW was heavily influenced by John Tolos, both Sabu and RVD, and, of course, Diamond Dallas Page. I wouldn't doubt if John Tolos isn't the one that taught him about all this yoga that he's made a couple $1 million off of. And granted, he saved people's life with it. John Tolos didn't save anybody's life with it, but DDP should at least give him some props and a few bucks to boot. But just keep watching the show, folks. You will eventually gain a respect for John Tolos. You may not love his promos. Okay, his promos leave a little bit to be desired, if we're being honest. But his influence can still be felt to this very day, obviously. So. My cats are over here excited. They're big John Tolos fans. But anyway, moving on.
You done?
For now.
All right. Can we get to this Jay Strongbow match that we're both so excited
please.
about? God
forbid. Yeah, I don't want to hold us up from another fine Jay Strongbow main event.
So at the beginning, Strongbow comes out and goes right to Bruno's table and starts complaining. I didn't catch why. Did you?
No, because they had headsets on, and you're cutting a promo to guys wearing headsets, so their mics aren't picking it up. He wasn't on a microphone where the fans could pick it up, so it was pretty much for his own fucking amusement because no one else was able to hear it. Because I guess Strongbow hadn't been around long enough to know how microphones work on a television show.
And the crowd was soundly booing the shit out of him. So
yeah,
no fucking clue there. And then would I be wrong in saying that Cactus is probably the most over guy in this company?
Oh, yeah. If they would have had any sense about them whatsoever, they would have strapped the rocket to Cactus's ass and made him the star of UWF. In all seriousness.
Oh yeah, no. Other than maybe Orndorff, like he was hands down the most over guy in the fucking company.
Yes. Again, most over guy who's not a WWF washout, who should be over because he's had a ton of TV exposure. Because you got to figure the only television exposure Cactus Jack had before this was World Class, Continental, Memphis, and a brief stint in WCW.
First run in WCW,
and it was treated basically like a jobber
terribly
through that. So,
and then he had the Gary Young tag team running World Class and then the Continental.
If only Gary Young had come along for this ride.
I love me some fun, gorgeous Gary.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, I'm being serious. I'm saying we wouldn't have had to see Wild Man Jack Armstrong, and maybe folks would not have groaned when Gorgeous Gary got tagged back in like they did for Boston Jack.
Cactus plays a good bit of one of my favorite old school jobber of like, the gimmicks in the knee pad, the gimmicks under my armpit, the gimmicks in. I love that. But then fucking Herb, when Strongbow finds the foreign object, Herb literally yells out, "There's the gimmick!"
I was just about to point that out. It's one thing for you on a podcast in 2023 to refer to it as a gimmick, but in 1990 on television for him to say "there's the gimmick," wow, that is bizarre.
The fact that Bruno didn't smack the shit out of him right then.
What the fuck you call it a gimmick? Oh.
Yeah, that one, like I was like, did he really just say that? But so that one shocked me. Then we get the what the fuck finish, the Herbie finish of the week.
We've got a clip of that if you want to.
Chops the ref for no fucking reason. Then starts his little stupid war dance and then gets DQ'd.
Yeah, take a look at this real quick, folks.
I mean, got it? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, this is just like on cue, like, oh, time to end the match. Let me chop the referee, because there's no reason for him to do this whatsoever.
He doesn't realize that he took it. Oh,
no! What a mistake that was! What a mistake! Strongbow must have just gone totally crazy. He lost his temper, smacks the referee with the roller corners, it appears. Oh. The referee has just rang for the bell. He signaled for the bell. Strongbow is good. Looks like he's going to be disqualified.
I'll tell you something. Herbie's going to be disqualified, but you know what? I don't think he cares. He did that to the referee because he wanted him out of the way, because he really wanted to do a number on Cactus Jack. He says, okay, this is the weapon I'm going to give to you.
Cactus is escaping the ring.
Sure, he knows he's won the match.
And speaking of his war dance, since you mentioned Forrest Gump earlier, it looks like Forrest Gump trying to fucking do Achy Breaky Heart. It doesn't look anything like a goddamn Native American dance.
No. Oh, my God. Every time he starts to do it, I'm just like yelling at the TV, like, no, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. Like, good Lord.
And then Foley starts pitching chairs in the ring, which is always enjoyable when, other than he's not quite as efficient as Terry Funk, who always managed to hit somebody in the back of the fucking head.
I'm sure if Terry Funk somehow was sitting in a hotel room seeing this match, he wanted to throw a chair through his TV watching that shit. Good Lord.
What the goddamn fuck is this?
Come on, Cactus.
Hit that son of a bitch in the head. And then Strongbow apologizes to the referee because we wanted to make sure to get that in. And then he challenges for, well, so then Herb's like, you want to challenge him to an Indian death match, right? He's like, yeah, an Indian strap match. And because they can't even fucking get that shit right.
No, they can't get on the same page. Like, and I don't think that ever happened.
Oh, no.
I don't believe. Maybe it did. I don't know. But I don't think it did. But
well, that would be a huge shame.
Don't hold me to that. I mean, how do you have a Herbie finish in a Indian strap match? I'm sure they would find a way, of course. I mean, they managed to do it in a they managed to have a count out in a fucking lumberjack match.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's been a singles match, a tag match, now a singles match. We turned it back into a strap match. Maybe we can turn it into a 6-man or something.
Let's have a 6-man strap match.
A 6-man elimination Thunderdome strap match. I don't fucking know. Then we get our announcements that next week, they don't announce a main event, but they do announce that we're going to see Don Morocco and the debut of Barry O.
Hell yeah.
So another bona fide main eventer coming over from the World Wrestling Federation as Vince quakes in his boots. His talent keeps jumping ship to the UWF, which will be the premier championship.
How the hell are we going to fill out Wrestling Challenge this week?
God damn it. Someone call Horowitz back.
Oh, Barry O. Who,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's ever won a match when he wasn't wearing a mask and calling himself Zodiac in Canada somewhere. I don't know that he ever won a match in the United States. I'm sure he'll win next week, because but I'm just saying, I don't know why you'd even bother to announce him the week before. Like, anybody's like, man, this show sucked. I'm not watching this anymore. Wait, Barry O's going to be here next week?
Right?
All right,
Oh,
I'm back.
shit.
I'm in. Let's do this.
Man, they got Barry O. Fuck, if they could get like Trent Knight.
This was 95. They'd be like, if they can get the Gambler in here,
I mean, if they can get Snake Brown to come in from out of town, I would totally watch this shit next week.
Snake Brown would tag with Frogman LeBlanc. This would be the best fucking show ever. Well, we went a little longer than we thought, and I assume, at this point, with all this exciting action we've talked about, at this point, I figure you got to be dragging a little bit. So let's hear from this week's sponsor who can help us out with that.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Let me get one of those energy shots.
Woo! You're about to get robbed. Pay less and get a fuel in the bottle energy shot packed with B vitamins. It'll rock your world.
Woo!
Woo! Woo! Fuel in a bottle energy shot will get you through the day. 0 calories and packed with energy. All go and no crash. Woo! Fuel in a bottle power shot. It puts the woo in my woo.
Poor Ric Flair, a few years back, is peddling energy shots while holding one of those $150 replica belts out of the back of a magazine because he had long since lost his real belt.
Every year, more and more, Flair starts to look like the Mummy from the old Universal monster films, and it's sad. Very, very sad.
I really wish... I enjoy Conrad Thompson's podcast for the most part, but I really wish he would not give him a weekly forum to create clickbait headlines by just talking out of his ass and saying things that he probably shouldn't say, and people probably shouldn't give him a forum to say them, but yet they do.
You look at Flair in 89 or 92 and you're like, there's a dignified man that will retire with dignity, and then fuck.
And then you fast forward to Nashville last summer to that atrocity that took place.
And you're like, well, I guess Arn kind of retired with dignity at least. So,
yep, but he's still Ric Flair, but Lord help him. Let's hope that literally was his last match, because
there will be another ex-wife, I'm sure. Anyway.
So if we haven't mentioned it lately, make sure you check out Jonathan Plombon's book about the UWF. You can get. We don't use a lot of the stuff from that because we don't want to go. He did the work to dig that stuff up, so we don't want to tell it all here on the podcast. But there is a lot of in-depth behind the scenes, stories. He interviewed a lot of the people involved with the UWF. I am shocked and amazed at how many people he actually was able to get a hold of and talk to, and like things that he had in the book, like apparently one of Herb's ex-girlfriends sent him a box full of all kinds of old paperwork from UWF and contracts and all kinds of things. So there's some interesting stuff in there. So I highly suggest you check it out. I suggested it to someone who commented on the video. I put up a clip of, now that I'm not banned from Facebook, a clip of the Dr. Death referee incident with the steel chair, and He's like, that guy's lucky he didn't get killed. And I was like, yeah, read that book. That book is worth the price of purchase just to read that goose version of events that night. I mean, you talk about somebody just completely clueless to how close to death he really was. It's gives me heartburn every time I see that clip. It really does. Hurts my feelings.
No, you're absolutely not wrong. Like, we're on here having a good time making fun of it and talking about it, but he did a shitload of research that I can't even imagine. It's well worth your time. Well worth your time.
Absolutely. So next week, we'll be back. We don't know who the main event's going to be, but we do know, as we just said, Barry O is going to be here, and who don't want to see some Barry O? So make sure you join us next week for episode 11 of the UWF Fury Cast. And remember, if you're not sure, if you're questioning yourself right now, God dang it, that's not the video. Come on, producer Smokey, get the shit together.
Hi, I know lots of people have been surprised, but you've been watching UWF. That's true.
It's true. It's really true. Any words of wisdom to throw us out on there?
Not today. I'm just glad to know that if I ever need to have someone suspended for 180 days at my job, I just need to have some lower tier person sign a piece of paper and they can be terminated.
And just my luck, much like Larry Sampson, the asshole probably would refuse to sign it and walk away.